The bar for firing people like this is really high from the last administration, when after the Afghanistan withdrawal, which was a disaster, people died. No accountability was meted out.
That's right. CNN is still talking about Signalgate and firing Pete Hegseth. And yes, I actually made a chart to prove to you guys that Donald Trump has always been more harsh on military leaders than Joe Biden. But before we get to that, in this video, we will go over the most recent CNN meltdowns as far as the Signalgate controversy. Let's see if there's any new arguments. Now, before we start the video, as you know, please like the video. It's the #1 way you can help this channel, and it helps others see the videos as well. Let us begin.
Pete Hegseth, he did the opposite. He put classified, sensitive material about an operation hours before that operation took place into an unclassified setting, which is one of the biggest no-nos at the Department of Defense. If somebody like me did that, I'd be out on the sidewalk. And so I think you need to really take a look at, you know, the actions that they took and the result of it.
All right, I'm going to be honest with you. I almost did not make this video because we are still hearing the same exact arguments from Democrats. And the only reason why we are going to play this video is because we have some very good mic drop moments. So here we go.
If you're trying to assess what should we do about it, I hear Democrats arguing, well, we should fire Pete Hegseth, we should fire the National Security Advisor. The bar for firing people like this is really high from the last administration, when after the Afghanistan withdrawal, which was a disaster, people died, no accountability was meted out. After the drone strike that vaporized those poor kids and that family, no accountability. After the Secretary of Defense went AWOL, no accountability. So if you're arguing today that we should get rid of Pete Hegseth over a small mistake regarding communications, even while he was expertly executing this military operation against the Houthi rebels, which also the Biden administration didn't take up, I don't have a lot of time for that argument today, and neither does most Republicans.
Now, I think you guys are going to enjoy this. I actually made a chart using AI, and what I did was I said, hey, compare Donald Trump versus Joe Biden as far as key military leadership changes, and also added some more prompts, like give me details on the controversy. When you look at the first term for Donald Trump, this proves that Donald Trump has no issue with calling out his military leaders. Resign, General James Mattis. Fire, General Michael Flynn. General John Kelly resigned. But then when you go through the details, they were butting heads with Donald Trump. Whether or not this is a good thing, what it does prove is that Donald Trump has no problem in calling out his leadership. Why is he not calling out Pete Hegseth all of a sudden? You go to Joe Biden, literally nothing. In fact, there's a really funny detail. When you go down to Barack Obama, he actually was somebody who fired a general because he didn't like the way he was operating in Afghanistan. So again, let me know how you guys feel about this, but this is like objectively true. Whether or not it was a good thing, Donald Trump has never had an issue with calling out his own leadership, especially in his first term.
The problem here is that Pete Hegseth has taken no accountability. He's bashed the reporter. He's called it a hoax. He's done everything but say, hey, I made a mistake by putting this information in the Signal chat. You mentioned Secretary Austin. He stood at the podium for an hour and took accountability. He asked for a 30-day review of the hospitalization. He asked for an inspector.
Did a single Democrat ask for his resignation?
Scott, if I may.
Did a single Democrat,
Scott,
not one?
I am so glad to.
Okay, before we get to that, due to your support, this video has a sponsor. All right, this video is sponsored by American Financing. Look, I don't know your exact situation, but if you're like the thousands of homeowners American Financing talks to every month, you're struggling to keep up, barely making ends meet, drowning in high interest debt, it's not your fault. Life got more expensive. Inflation hit hard. If you're still carrying credit card balances with 20% plus interest rates while mortgage sits untouched, you're ignoring the one thing that could turn it all around, your home. And this is where American Financing can help. Would you trade 10 minutes for a shot at saving an average of $800 every single month? Because that's exactly what homeowners are doing when they call American Financing. A simple, no obligation call could change everything. They have a team of salary-based mortgage consultants, so there isn't any incentive to put you into a loan that doesn't make any sense. And there are no upfront fees to find out how much you can save. Don't wait. Call American Financing today and start feeling that relief. Call 866-889-2611. That's 866-889-2611. Or visit americanfinancing.net/T-SPLY. I'll put the links in my bio and pinned comment. Go check this team out. They're awesome.
You mentioned Secretary Austin. He stood at the podium for an hour and took accountability.
Now look, this is the part where you guys can all leave your comments down below. What is the actual definition of accountability? Because when Democrats are saying, look, Lloyd Austin, he took accountability, he sat in front of Congress, what Republicans are trying to say is, okay, but did all of you ask to get him fired? That's the difference.
Asked for an inspector.
Did a single Democrat ask for his resignation?
Scott, if I may.
Did a single Democrat,
Scott,
not one?
I am so glad to hear you say that this was a mistake.
Yeah.
We have not heard a single member of the Trump administration say that this was a mistake.
Trump
we
did.
need leadership.
Trump did.
We need leaders who step up, who own their mistakes,
Trump
and put
did.
out clear plans, because what I'm hearing on the ground from actual constituents is that this is a sign of the carelessness of this administration, who can't even protect national security details. What about our personal details?
This seems to happen to me a lot. As I was making this video, not only do we know that Donald Trump has already addressed the situation and talked to everybody involved, now we know Donald Trump just acknowledged what the media is doing about the situation. This is a rather interesting read. Kristen Welker's entire first half hour of the lowly rated Meet the Fake Press this morning was devoted to the boring signal witch hunt. She doesn't want to talk in detail about anything that matters, like how well we are doing against the Houthis, substantive peace talks with Russia and Ukraine, or Iran. She wastes my administration's time by talking to them about nothing. Why can't NBC, one of the worst broadcasters on television, hire people that are honest and credible? The reason they don't is because their chairman, Brian Roberts, is a pathetic loser who is petrified of the left and always will be. Comcast, MSNBC, and NBC have fought me for years, spending almost all of their wasting hours making up fake stories. And look, I'm president. I'm with really high poll numbers and great accomplishments. Good job, Brian. So again, Donald Trump is well aware of this, but I don't even know what day we are on right now as far as the signal gate.
I want to just go back down memory lane. I mean, Scott mentioned Afghanistan and how much of a debacle it was, but let's remind the viewers of the specifics of Afghanistan. 13 service members died. It was the deadliest attack, a single deadliest attack since 2011. A significant number of our troops were gravely wounded. And let's not forget those Gold Star families. They begged for accountability. Even many of them testified before Congress. Fire someone, demote someone. The administration did absolutely nothing. And even when Jake Sullivan told President Biden, I'm willing to resign, the president wouldn't accept the resignation. And so when Scott, when I, and other Republicans say we don't want to hear anything from Democrats, they have no moral standing to talk to Republicans about what we should do when they did absolutely nothing. When those Gold Star families, even to this day, Dana, still are begging for some type of answers for why the administration didn't protect their sons and daughters, and they want to lecture us on what we did wrong. Give me a break.
Now, this is actually quite the revelation, because here's what this proves. Jake Sullivan offered to resign over chaotic Afghanistan withdrawal. This is from the New York Post. However, it says Sullivan said he was prepared to quit after the U.S. evacuation didn't go as planned. And then Biden had pushed for a speedy withdrawal and apparently told his advisor to remain at his post. Now, the reason why this is important is because this proves that at least one person on staff realized this is a terrible idea, and obviously he feels convicted enough that this was a failure that he wanted out of the Biden administration because of the failures of Afghanistan. Now, of course, we will probably never know the full details of what was going on behind the scenes, but again, whether or not you agree with Jake Sullivan, whether or not you agreed, he should have left regardless of what Biden said, again, this proves there were some tensions behind the scenes, and at the very top, somebody at least knew we needed accountability even under the Joe Biden administration.
This is criminal behavior, right? They likely violated multiple laws, the Espionage Act, the Presidential Records Act. And so there has to be criminal investigations as well here. I mean, if the criminal code doesn't apply to powerful people, it only applies to people without power, then we don't have rule of law in this country. And so you're seeing the unfolding scandals of this administration start to overlap, right? When the Department of Justice has been turned into, as it has been, just a political arm of the White House, this is what happens. People in power believe that they can get away with crimes and telegraph to the American people that they're going to continue doing it while the law continues to apply to everybody else. So we have to have a larger conversation right now in this country, not just about this discrete scandal, but about how the rule of law doesn't seem to be working in this country as it applies to the people that are close to Donald Trump. This is criminal.
All right, you know I'm a professor. I love giving grades. How would you grade this administration on its response to Signalgate?
I would say this is minus F. I mean,
minus F.
It's not just an F. Why not just say they messed up, they blew it, this should have never happened, reprimand somebody, and it might have been a 24-hour story. The fact that they prolonged it, now somebody's going to have to be held accountable, and they looked like they are just what they are, a bunch of amateurs. If Lloyd Austin had done this, they'd have said it was a DEI hire. That's where we can't have diversity. Well, then what is Hegseth? If I mean, you sit on a line that clearly can be compromised. A reporter's in, you don't recognize on the icon, there's a JG on the icon, and nobody says, who is that?
Nobody says who's that when he leaves.
Nobody says when he leaves. So
All right, so there you go. If you are still watching this video, minus F for the Trump administration. Now, one thing I want to say is this. I do think it's important to point out, if you are a Republican or conservative, I'm actually almost seeing nobody say nothing was absolutely wrong, everything is perfect. The argument for Republicans is there was a mistake. They should have never added in the journalist. However, the mission was a success. I have always said, I think if the mission was not a success and there was an issue, I think we would be having a totally different conversation. And I really think, you know, I showed you guys that graph. I really think Donald Trump has absolutely zero issue with either firing Pete Hegseth or calling him out in the public and saying, yeah, he's not doing a great job. We might need to replace him. I mean, again, go look at that chart. Go look into the first Trump administration. He was not afraid to talk down on his leadership and generals. And again, you can say what you want about that. It might not have been the greatest thing ever, but again, it's just evidence to show you that Trump is not afraid of accountability. So anyway, let me know what you guys think about all of this. I really hope I don't have to make another Signalgate video, but I'm sure we will. Thank you guys for everything. God bless, and we'll see you guys later.